So first thing, though, is I wanted to tell you a story
Okay.
of something that happened to me recently. Last weekend was Cinco de Mayo. Last Saturday was Cinco de Mayo. And at around 5 o'clock, I start to hear sirens. And, like, a lot of sirens, and they're not really going away, which I find weird. So I stop playing Skyrim or whatever I'm doing, and I, like, peek out the window, and I see that there's, like, 8 police cars on the street outside my building. They're driving up the road, and they're on the sidewalk, and driving on the wrong side of the road, up the road and stuff. They're just really active.
Yeah.
And it's weird, so I pause the game and I step outside onto my balcony and I just start to watch. And eventually all the cops end up, like, migrating up the street, but I see walking up the street behind them this group of, like, 16 people. They're all wearing the same thing.
Okay.
And they're all black too, just to paint a picture of what I'm seeing. And them all being black wouldn't really be noticeable until, and them all wearing white t-shirts and jeans wouldn't really be noticeable until I start to notice this kind of, like, altercation that's happening between them. I'm starting to see a couple guys pushing each other. I'm starting to see one of those, you know, that thing that men always do where they're like, their buddy is, like, pushing them away and they're shouting over their buddy's shoulder at the other guy while getting pushed away.
Hold me back.
You see that all the time, and that's happening here. I see one guy take a swing at another guy, and then kind of, like, do that other kind of thing where you turn your back and you walk away from the whole thing, but still kind of circle back.
Yeah.
And the whole group of 16 people is, like, migrating up the street. And eventually I see some of them spill into the road. It's a divided, like, 3-lane road, like 3 going this way and 3 going the other way. And they start to drift into it. Like, they're like 5 of them. They're blocking traffic. They're going to the median. And things escalate a little bit further. And I see somebody punch at one guy. Some guy pushes another to the ground, and 2 people start running up and start stomping on him.
Oh, jeez.
And then I hear 2 gunshots.
Oh, no.
Okay? And everybody scatters. The people who weren't in the road all scatter towards the river. One guy vaults over this kind of rocky ledge and something and takes cover. And within, like, 10 seconds, I hear the cops' sirens start coming down the street. And all of the people for the past, like, 5 minutes, as this has been happening, who had been, you know, enjoying themselves on the patio, had all migrated to the corner to watch the sirens and look at the altercation and stuff. And when the gun was fired, I see the people in the corner. I jumped a little bit, but I was relatively far away, so I wasn't really in danger. But all the people on the corner were pointing to the cops, here, he's down here. Like, they were pointing down at the street below them. And the cops turn the corner around my building and start going up the alley or whatever. And no ambulances were called. I was watching the police scanners for, like, the next hour after that. And I ended up, apparently, there was some gang violence a year ago on Cinco de Mayo because there was a festival or a party or something that was held in one gang's territory and it was attended by another gang and they ended up getting drunk and fighting or whatever.
Yeah.
And the cops were preparing for a similar event this year. And apparently the shooter shot twice, didn't hit anybody, put the gun back in his backpack, and took off down the street. And when the police caught him, and one other person was in custody, they found that the gun had the serial number filed off of it. Which means, obviously, that it was possessed with intention to commit crime, right?
Okay.
That's why you have an unserialized gun. But yeah, it was surreal.
That's crazy.
To witness
right in front
attempted.
of you.
I mean, in another way, like, it's possible that it was an attempted murder, that the guy fired the gun because he was on the side of the guy who was on the ground getting stomped, and he wanted to fire his gun to disperse the fight and get away. Or maybe it's like trying to take a shot in basketball while somebody's defending you, while somebody's in your face. It's hard to make that shot. So maybe he did intend to kill, but he missed. But regardless, gunfire.
Yeah.
Being witness to it. I've been going hunting with people from not hunting. I've been shooting clay pigeons with people from my place of work for the past few weeks.
Sweet.
Apparently, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Because the first day that I did it, I beat everybody that I work with. Despite the fact that it was my second time ever hitting anything with a shotgun. And I was supposed to do it today, too. But I didn't really feel like doing it today. Felt pretty bummed out about the whole thing.
Why?
Just I recognize that violence in some contexts is necessary. Like, it's necessary if people that you need to defend are under attack and you need to hurt the attacker. And I recognize that hunting for the sake of feeding yourself is also necessary. And so being able to shoot a clay pigeon with a shotgun is training yourself for a skill that's useful. I mean, it's not inherently immoral, and I don't think that anything is inherently immoral, as I've expressed to you. I think that moral absolutism is ridiculous. But just the nature of, like, the justifications for violence,
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna shoot at somebody because my buddy's getting assaulted, so I'm gonna murder to protect somebody I care about from assault, Or like, we'll kill 10 of them before we let one of us die. And just the nature of, like, retaliation and escalation. I've advocated tit for tat several times before, and I'm going to continue to do so because the math says that it's the ideal way to prevent abuse, is to not tolerate abuse and not over respond to abuse. But this seems like something else, It's hitting somebody because they insulted you and killing somebody because they hit you.
Yeah.
It's beyond self-defense. It's self-destruction. And I'm like literally just watching humans walking up the street, and somehow somebody's life is jeopardized.
Yeah.
It just seems so self-inflicted and absurd and crazy.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like shooting at stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm sure that I'm not going to continue to feel that way forever, but
Right.
But
just holding a gun, and using it associates with a memory.
I'm not a pacifist. I have relatively low regard for the aspect of Buddhism and Hinduism and other Eastern philosophies that say just literally violence is never the answer. But I feel like it is that I've had some difficulty coming to terms with my own masculinity at times, or at least I feel very intensely emotionally affected by it, by this idea that I'm biologically disposed to be a warrior, to shoulder the burden of the tribe's violence in order to keep the rest of the tribe safe.
Yeah.
And the fact that I have this, in the same way that my body was changed by puberty, that I grew facial hair and a deeper voice and more muscles and whatever, so too was my brain changed and my endocrine system, my hormones changed by puberty in order to prepare me to fill this kind of role. I became more accepting of violence as a potential option to take care of problems. Yeah. And it's the fact that I'm being manipulated by my genes this way, that I'm becoming a weapon to be used by my community as a result of the influence of my genes, is felt like an assault on my liberty.
Yeah.
And also something that puts me in danger and will lead to me suffering more than I have to.
Right. Getting in a street brawl or something.
Well,
or it's the equivalent,
or the equivalent of going to war.
That's a really interesting thing. Like feeling assaulted by your own genes.